We want to help you, Mr. Valentine. My brother and I run a privately funded program to rehabilitate culturally disadvantaged people. We'd like to supply you with a home of your own, a car, a generous bank account, and employment with our company. But there's a catch. You'll have to listen to Thrive Loud with Lou Diamond.
Hey, Thrive Loud listeners, are you down and out during these cold winter months? Is your daily routine getting a little boring? Do you need something that gets you motivated? Well then, get up from what you're doing and get the blood flowing. Hit the gym, go for a hike in the cold, go for a run, do something. And while you're out there, pop in your headphones, load up your podcast app, and get inspired with the amazing content Thrive Loud with Lou Diamond has for you. Us interns at Thrive Loud are working our tails off to pull together these great shows to bring you some incredible content, and you are missing out if you're not listening. Download it, subscribe to it, share the heck out of it on social media. It's great stuff. It's not just about listening. The show is called Thrive Loud, people, so get to it and start thriving as loud as you can by listening to all of these inspiring episodes.
Get ready to Thrive Loud with Lou Diamond.
Welcome, everyone, to another episode of Thrive Loud with Lou Diamond, connecting to the most inspiring and amazing people that are thriving each and every day. I'm your host, Lou Diamond. Today on Thrive Loud, we have the founder of one of the most unique and exclusive experiences you will ever find. An entrepreneur, innovator, and a man that might be on MI6's most wanted list. Thrive Loud listeners, you are in for a treat and are about to hear one of the coolest and impressive things we've ever featured on this show. We have the founder of the James Bond Experience, Shane Mahoney. Shane, how are you today?
Wonderful. How are you?
I am spectacular, and we are here in New York City in a very swank hotel, which might be the most appropriate place for us to be at because this is kind of very Bond-esque, I guess.
We are missing some martinis in our hand.
Hey, you know what? It's an audio cast, so we can make it. We can like we're clinking, or just have the waitress bring it over. All right, so Shane, this is a pretty cool thing. Before we talk about what this experience is, I want to learn a little bit more about you. Let our listeners understand what Shane Mahoney is all about. Can you give a little like the fast forward version of like from you to how you got where you are right now?
Sure, absolutely. I would be glad to share that. Thanks, Lou. You know, essentially, I wasn't always in the travel business at all. Okay. As a matter of fact, I graduated from college and was in sales and finance positions for about 11 years. And I think maybe a lot of people can relate to this, but after 11 years, I found myself in a position where I was really good at making money. I was good at what I did, but I wasn't particularly happy with what I was doing, how I was doing it. And
I think many of our Thrive Loud fans and listeners completely understand what that's about.
You know, it's about a fulfilled life. And I look at it, you have one chance, you have one life. And so what do you do with it? And I found myself at 34 years old, and I just wasn't happy. And I said, you know what? I'm checking out of the rat race. I'm going to be done. I had this really, honestly, Lou, terrible plan. I was going to be a ski instructor in France. So I was going to leverage that my mother was from France. I'm a half French citizen. I was like, I love to ski. I'm weird Floridian in that way. And I said, you know, let me move to the Alps. I'll be a ski instructor, and then I'll pursue my passions, and I'll honestly just figure it out. Okay. And so I had this really bad plan. 3 weeks away from enacting this plan, my mom, who didn't love this plan but supported it enough to bring me this article from a gentleman who had sold his 20-plus year real estate agency in Colorado.
Okay.
He moves to France and starts a ski school. And I thought, bam, this guy gets me. Like, I figured, honestly, I would have to be the worst salesperson on the planet to not get a job with this guy. So I wrote him a really long email, and I just leveled with him about where I was in my life and how I related to the article, what he had written. And I said, you know, what am I missing? What do I not know? And so he emailed me back the next day, and literally the next day after that, we spoke for nearly 4 hours. It was a very generous donation of his time. And honestly, I can pinpoint my life right now, 8 years later, to exactly that moment, because he said, you know, What you don't know about the ski industry is that in France, it's highly regulated. And I'm going to shortcut most of this. But essentially, it's a 5-year program. It costs as much as college. And if you get caught practicing without these licenses, they drive you to the border, they take your passport, and you're just done.
Oh, my God.
Yeah. I was like, whoa, I wasn't prepared for that. And so I started.
So how was the visit at the border? No, I'm just
so I assessed my life, and I'm like, I'm going to be. Let's say I do this. I'm graduating at 40 years old. I'll be, competing for jobs against 20-something-year-olds. I was like, this is not a good plan. But he says, you sound like you type of guy who could bring clients over to ski here. He says, you should consider being a tour operator. And Lou, I have traveled around the world, over 4.5 times. I'd lived in multiple countries. I'd been an exchange student in Barcelona. I grew up in Australia and Borneo. I had been around. I had never used a travel agent so much as even had a clue what a tour operator was.
Right.
And so I started really looking into it. And I said, what is a tour operator? And so to shortcut that for the listening audience, it's essentially the person who puts together the packages that your travel agent would then sell to you.
Got it.
So we're a level above, and we go a lot deeper in what we can do. And then we sell that to either travel agents or to consumers directly.
Got it. Makes perfect sense.
In my case, I sell to consumers directly. So I started looking into this, and I really liked the market overall. I think it was last year we went over 1 billion international travelers per year.
Oh my goodness!
Over $1 trillion is being spent globally, and so I thought this is really neat. And honestly, it was more of a pairing of who I was. Like, I had always been that type of guy who went to a new country or a new place, and within 10 minutes, I knew the great places to go. I knew, like, the nice people to hang out with, the attractions that weren't necessarily on the Frommer's guide, and things like that. And so I found it to be a way to leverage what I knew, who I knew, and what I knew about traveling. Because, and maybe you can relate to this, but when I was in college, I kind of found myself in a situation where I had lots of time and no money, and that creates a very special type of travel. It's perfect for backpacking and hostels, things like that.
Right.
But as I got older and my income went up, what I found was I actually really liked a nice hotel room. I loved a nice meal. Having somebody who was a dedicated expert show me around was really beneficial to be able to maximize my time in country and give me a better experience. And so what I started to do was look at it from the sense of what kind of travel company would I want to do business with, and then I essentially came up with all of it. And I think one of my functional advantages has been that I didn't come up in the travel industry, so I had none of their bad habits. I had none of their typical training. And I wasn't looking things from what do travel agents do. I was looking at things from the very beginning of what would be an experience that people would really want to have and enjoy.
Okay, so let's put a pin on that, and that's a really cool thing. So you have this global experience. You have this expertise from a view around the world and all the different things that understanding what the effort is to put the packages together to travel around the world.
Sure.
And you want to flip the model and not make it from the agency or even the hotels or the venue, but you flipped it to what does the traveler really want?
Right.
Continue.
Okay, so to look at this like from the standard model of what a travel agent does is they don't really respect themselves as a professional. And what I mean by that is that they typically don't charge their clients anything for what they do.
Right.
And so to that effect, what value is there? And what I found was that how they do get paid is from commissions, and those commissions fluctuate between 10 and 20%, give or take, okay? So as a travel agent, if you being my client, come to me and say, I want to have this fantastic experience, I don't have the mindset of what kind of experience is great for Lou. I have the mindset of what pays me the best commission, and that's what Lou is going to do.
Right. Okay.
And so I looked at things completely differently, and I said, I am a professional, and I'm going to take things from Lou's perspective. And I'm going to do you the service of getting to know you on a deep and personal level to understand who you are, what your interests are, what would be interesting to you while you were traveling, So, for example, let's say, for instance, you were really into Fleetwood Mac, and I found out through my research that Fleetwood Mac was going to be touring Italy while you were there. Now, could I infer that maybe you would want to go to that concert?
Gotcha.
Yeah. Well, a travel agent is never going to take that step because there's no commission in a Fleetwood Mac ticket sale. But I do. And so what I do is I have a very frank conversations with my customers, and I say, look, I am going to charge you for my time. This is as simple as that. It's just like a CPA or an attorney or anything else. But in exchange, what I'm going to do is I'm going to leverage my connections in this business so that if I can save you 20% on a hotel that doesn't pay a commission, then I'm going to take that rate and save you that money and still give you the experience, the hotel, and everything else surrounding it. But I'm going to do it from the standpoint of what's the best vacation for Lou and his family.
Okay. So you put that together and you've created this experience from, which by the way, I think is something that's been missing in the market.
Sure.
It's almost in the sense that this is what one would imagine an exclusive end customer would normally have. You were trying to make that dough to everybody, or you were trying to deal with a certain type of customer that you wanted to target?
So that's a good question. So there's definitely a market for what I do, and there's definitely, because of the price tag, it's not maybe, let's say, entry level. People who are shopping for, let's say, a Royal Caribbean cruise or a Carnival cruise are definitely not shopping for what I have.
Right.
Okay. But to use that analogy, really what I find that a lot of people really like about cruising is that they make the one decision and then they're done, right? Because I think people these days are very time starved, and time deficit allows for poor decision making. And so what I offer as a service is, let's say, for instance, you wanted to have that one decision and then you're done. We can do that while also creating a land experience in any country around the world for any length of time. And there's very little stress from our clients in terms of being able to plan what, where, when, how, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Okay. So to just ballpark it, though, our average tours range from $5,000 to $20,000 per person, depending upon length and where they go. And those dedicated tours are in Costa Rica, Iceland, the UK and Northern Ireland, Belgium, France, Italy, and the Maldives.
Wow. Okay, so pretty exclusive places to go and all of that.
No, I think a lot of very common places. I mean, the Maldives for sure is
for the States
probably,
it is versus,
sure.
I guess, European travelers. Or
Yeah. On a custom basis, we also deal with any other country in the world for any length of time. So
okay, so now I'm going to make a little bit of a segue here because
Sure.
you established a business that was about really servicing one end of it, and then you decided to do what we love to do in THRIVELOUD, which is move things onward and upward, and you did something that no one has done before, and you've created an absolutely unbelievable experience. But before we discuss what the experience is, can you help connect the dots a little bit and explain why this idea came to you?
Sure. It's the best story ever. So essentially, and I'm sure a lot of people can relate to this, but I grew up in a large Italian family who loved James Bond, absolutely adore it. And so my memories growing up was that every single Thanksgiving, because all the movies ended up coming out in Thanksgiving, we would have a real big dinner, and then there would be like a caravan of 4 or 5 cars going to the movie theater, and we would all watch the Bond. That would be our afternoon, and then that was it. And so I grew up with this just idolization of like how amazing would it be to be James Bond, like the clothes, the adventure, the excitement, the cars, everything. Like it was cool. And so I'm in this business and I do these really great and interesting tours. And I thought, what would it be like if we did a James Bond experience? Like, what would that look like where maybe we could change the focus from the places visited to an experience that happens at the places visited?
Gotcha.
And so what I wanted to do, this has really started off, it's been over 2 years of thought process, meeting the right people, putting the Rubik's Cube together in such a way that it actually makes sense now. But essentially what it is I'm going to go with this. I'm just going to say it. I think it's competition to virtual reality. Like when virtual reality is really strong and it's awesome and you can visit the Eiffel Tower from your living room, what are you going to look for in terms of a vacation anymore? And so what I thought was this is the cool thing.
So, by the way, this is an interesting point because Sean and I had spoken a couple of weeks ago to learn about what this experience was like, and which we're going to go into the details of what it is. And I remembered getting off the phone saying, wow, at some point in the future, virtual reality, like we see on Star Trek when they go into the holodeck or something like that, they're able to live these crazy fantasies and have them come to life and never leave a padded room. But in today's era, and the true experience of actually getting and connecting with these locations and doing the travel, you've created an experience that I think we want to now move into and share with the listeners.
Absolutely.
What this is.
So this is kind of my crack at it. What we wanted the client to do is start with 3 days intensive training at a U.S. government-approved training facility. Now, currently this
I'm still laughing just thinking about it. Anyway, keep going,
They currently train everything from the CIA down to the LAPD, and what our client would be doing would be performance driving lessons, SWAT incursion techniques, shooting from helicopters, all kinds of stuff like that.
So basically, like as if we were the actors in a Bond movie, we are actually what you would do before you would film, which is you would train, and you would
basic
get basic training for what the film would take.
These are the skill sets that we think you're going to need in our experience, right?
Okay.
And let's face it, these are just awesome experiences to begin with. Like hanging out of a helicopter shooting targets is just cool, right?
It's a very good point.
And so at the end of the 3 days, we are going to release to our client custom-made gadgetry and instructions.
So you're going to be Q, for more or less, if we're in the Bond movies, yes.
We are, in fact, producing custom-made pieces specifically for this adventure.
Okay, now, specifically for this adventure, but these aren't things that are going to blow up and kill people. These are quasi-gadget-like things.
Quasi-gadget-like things that you, let's just call them wearables. Things that you could have with you and don't call any attention to yourself as, maybe as Bond would, just the ability to have something where we can do some secret communications and the ability to kind of track motions and things like that. Think about it like when they did the GPS tracker chip that they injected. We're not going to inject anything into anybody, okay?
Right.
Just to be clear. But we got to get close to that so we can track your movements, because quite honestly, what we're creating is an experience that is, for all intents and purposes, off the leash. It's completely... There's no script. No, there is a script.
Oh, there's a script. Okay.
There is a script, but there's no directions. The script is designed to evolve and revolve around the client's decisions that they make.
Okay.
So that they very much are in control on any given decision about what happens, where they go, who they chase, why, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
So we start where the training facility is located where?
It's in the U.S.
In the United States. Okay, so now, I guess, just like in any Bond movie, an assignment begins.
The assignment begins approximately 2 weeks to a month after your basic training. Okay?
Got it.
That's going to be wholly dependent upon the schedule of the client. And what it is 8 days, northern Italy, on a Hollywood script written, because we had to get a Hollywood script writer. We got to get somebody that really knows what they're doing. Choose your own adventure, live action role play game. It has real actors, and not just any actors, but I want to cover that with you later. It has all the toys, the suites, all the fun things that can be happening in multiple different location changes as we chase a storyline where our client is going to beat Spectre.
So you basically are, if you are Bond, and I'm putting quotes around that.
Right.
So you are Bond, you are sent to Northern Italy, you have a task at hand, or whatever it might be, that might be handed to you, a la any type of movie, and now you are going to be submerged into, as if it's the real movie, staying at the resorts, where it's like Como or wherever it might be, in all the exclusive spots that you might see the movie being filmed, and you're living the movie in real life.
For sure. Yeah, and like I said, so we have actors, and you, as the client, wouldn't even know who is an actor and who isn't an actor. So sitting in the back of your head is always going to be that question, is the person I'm talking to, the barista at the coffee shop, the waiter at the restaurant, are these people in on it or are they not in on it? And the client will have no idea who is and isn't in on it, just as in real life, wouldn't know who is and isn't a spy, who is and isn't, conspiring against them or conspiring with them.
Let's jump to the actors that you're referring to. Explain the quality of the actors that are playing in this movie in this real life movie for that latter.
So that was a real key piece, right? Because what we found was that real actors are fantastic when there's a script, but as soon as things go off script, really they don't kind of know how to further the story. And so the second stage of what we looked at was improv actors, and that gets a little bit better, but it's not great. And so what we found was a company that specializes in something called an interactor. Now, interactors are actors who are very improv trained, but also have a deep psychological background, and they use that background to be able to further a storyline where things may kind of go off the rail. Okay, so if you've ever seen the movie The Game,
yep.
Right, so you're going to ask me my favorite movie later.
We will. We'll get to that.
That's not my favorite movie,
okay.
But this definitely
good front running though the interview. I like where it's going.
This encapsulates kind of what we're thinking. Like if you've seen the movie, then you know what the interactor is. It's like the girl, it's the guy who are basically furthering this story, but without like being overt about it, right? And so the interactors are going to allow our one client for the James Bond experience to be able to literally make any decision that they wish to make in any moment they wish to make it. And then we will completely revolve the story around that. So whatever decisions they make, the story evolves around it. Okay? And that's key. Now, another real big factor about this, and this is just because I thought, when I started this, I watched every single Bond movie again from start to finish, right? My wife was like, really? You're gonna watch
How many are there?
There's too many.
Okay.
There's too many for a family man to sit at home and watch
enough.
2 movies. There's 25 is coming out, I think, next year.
Okay.
Right? So essentially, I never saw James Bond with a suitcase. Not once, not ever. But he's always got great clothes. So what we did is we included all 8 days, custom-tailored clothes suited to every single occasion, and they're going to be delivered to the hotel ready for the client to wear. Those are theirs to keep.
So for an 8-day excursion, if you would, they're living the life of James Bond.
Correct.
In northern Italy, living out a mystery and doing all the things that one would do. They are literally garmented by you and provided with the clothes. Do they get to keep the clothes?
They get to keep the clothes, and we will go so far as to also replicate their entire toiletries kit as per their choices. Those will all be delivered as well. The client will actually not pack at all.
Talk to me about transportation. Obviously, we know what Bond has been most famous for in just about every movie. Certain cars.
Sure. Aston Martin. Got to have one, right?
But of course.
So, to my mind, how we introduce that is going to be a lot like in the Q sense. It's just going to kind of appear, and then it's going to be one of those things where they have an Aston Martin to drive. A lot of these things are centered around that. Like there's it's going to sense like there is no plan, but there is a plan, but it evolves around and it'll change.
All right, so now I'm going to ask the question that I know
Sure.
everyone is kind of thinking in the back of their head and going in there. One of the most signature moments in any Bond movie is not only one, but always 2 Bond girls, Bond women that have been in the movie. Okay, how is that playing out into this scenario, or is it not?
There will be female actors. There will be no...
it's the G version of the movie, not necessarily
maybe
whatever
PG-13.
PG-13,
But yeah,
okay.
There's not going to be. I am not, unfortunately, in that business. Let's put it that way.
This
is as far as I can go with
but
that.
But even still, you're living the whole travel experience, and now at
Right.
the end of every Bond movie, as I pretty much record this, he always ends up somewhere on vacation. So after
there's always the tropical paradise.
Exactly.
Right?
So what happens at the end of this?
So at the end of the 8 days, once presumably our client beats Spectre, we're going to fly them and concurrently their significant other. So this is where we get to introduce the ladies or the man,
right.
Depending on if a lady is taking our James Bond experience. And so we'll fly both of them concurrently to Jamaica, to the actual estate where Sir Ian Fleming wrote the books.
Wow.
It's called GoldenEye. It's actually a resort that was transformed by Chris Blackwell, who's the owner of Island Records. So if you know Bob Marley, you definitely know Chris Blackwell. And so it's just an additional 5 days, all-inclusive, and that kind of wraps it up without any storyline.
It's basically a 2-week vacation plus obviously the training, so it's about a 16 days type thing. Okay. For the THRIVELOUD listeners, we're going to do a special bonus link to go through the specifics of this again, and we'll also really highlight what something like this costs? Because this is obviously not a low ticket
not
item.
inexpensive.
So yeah, we will discuss that component of it. I want to now just jump back to you,
Sure,
and talk about this. You've created this idea and this experience. What has been the reception of this idea to the investor community, to the business community, to potentially making this thing come to life?
I have yet to talk to anybody that hasn't been super excited about it. It really comes down to the thing that I hear the most is, oh my gosh, if I could afford this, I'd be signing up tomorrow. And to the heart of it, this is something that I think with some development and some time, we'll be able to convert this into a more obtainable experience for more people. I liken it really to the first plasma TV you could hang on the wall. It wasn't today it's a commonplace item. But back then it was like, what was it, like $15,000, $18,000 for that sort of thing. This is a one-off. It's a very specialized item. It takes us months and months and months to set up and have this experience for one person. We're flying multiple people to multiple locations, housing them, training them, et cetera, et cetera. So, it's not cheap. But
and I was going to ask this question. Obviously, you've set up a package that's specifically geared right now towards northern Italy, but I'm imagining down the road, you've got the globe
every year
to where you would do it.
So I think this is expandable in two different ways, which is, one, we could definitely incorporate charter jets, so we can incorporate multiple different locations. I think that's, a natural. Obviously, we might have to include some time in London. For 2020, our goal is to actually take this experience and devise it for two people. So buddies, couples, things like that. We could do it where they work together, or we could do it where they work against each other and have one good guy, one bad guy, So I think there's a lot of cool ways we can expand this particular theme. We can shorten it. We can lengthen it. We can do a lot of different things. But in essence, it's...
So here's the question, Sean. I was thinking about this before, Shane. You have the ability to marry up your personal, your basically the thing you grew up in loving the most,
sure,
with what you do.
Right.
How is that like every day for you as an entrepreneur? That the ability to connect the dots on this has got to be like one of the coolest things that makes you wake up every day and just go, "Oh my God, I can't believe I'm doing this."
To be honest, that's the entirety of my company. I've been able to take how I liked to travel, being able to impart real great experiences to different people who, just to shortcut this, people don't make good decisions when it comes to their own vacations. You come from a different place when you're planning it yourself, and it's usually from a place of finances. You start making a decision where if you're looking at two different hotels, and maybe they're both, 4-star or 5-star, they're both of the same quality, and you look at one and you're like, one room is, $500 and the other one is $425. People start making those financial decisions, and that keeps going. And then you start looking at like, well, I could do a 6-hour tour, but I could do a 4-hour tour. And then you start making this little cut and that little cut, and that propagates throughout the entire thing, and what you look at the end is a vastly different experience overall. And to go back to my theme about time, here's the thing: the average American is working, in my opinion, far too much, right? And so you get this position where you finally have a vacation and you have this finite amount of time that you now need to maximize how you're going to visit. And one of the things that I really find is different about the American market versus the international market is we look at things from the sense of like checking boxes off, right? So people don't look at Paris and they say, oh my gosh, I'm going to go to Paris 6, maybe 7 times in my life. They look at Paris and say, I'm going to go to Paris once, I'm going to do, quote, air quote, everything, and then I'm going to go to somewhere else, and then I'm going to go to Barcelona, and then I'm going to go to London, and then I'm going to do this. And so we look at things from the sense of like one and done. And so from that standpoint, what I wanted to do is take my experience with these different things and kind of shortcut, not to curse, the bullshit.
You can curse. It's okay. It's fucking all right.
Perfect. So, I wanted to kind of cut it down to where that's where it really becomes a value. Is when we get to know our clients, I'm not wasting your time showing you this museum that by all measures is one of the best in the world, but you couldn't give a shit about. And so, like, if you're into something, I want to make sure you get it. And if you're not into something, I want to make sure you skip it.
Got two more questions, then we can do some admin
Sure.
stuff here. I love asking all the guests on the program, when you have trouble thriving, who or what practice do you seek to get back on the thriving track?
That's a phenomenal question.
That's why this is a phenomenal show.
Perfect. So I think meditation has been really helpful to me to be able to search within myself the answers. And along with that, I think it goes into creating moments and time for yourself to really bring the answers to light. You know, it's too easy to just make a decision and move on to something. It's a lot harder to think through how that decision is going to impact yourself, your family, your time, you know, your commitments, and all the other things. So I think if I could tell anybody, the best advice is just slow it down a little bit. You know, I think we definitely are in an economy and a society that values making quick decisions and getting on to the next thing. But at the same time, there's great value in slowing things down, and I think hopefully I've made a company that helps people do that.
Gotcha. How many people are in the company today, just out of curiosity?
3
people. Okay.
We're very lean.
Are you going to need to recruit a lot more for the project, or those are contract, not counting the actors?
Contract.
Okay.
Those are contract. Yeah, we'll contract out with various professionals from different things. Like, one of the things I didn't mention is, you know, if you can't see it, did it really happen, right? So the James Bond experience includes an ex-Navy SEAL and ex-CIA officer who are actually married to each other. They're a phenomenal couple. And they're going to be running safety, security, surveillance, and videography. So we're going to take this particular experience, and at all points, actors will have pinhole cameras. We're going to use hidden cameras in different areas where we can control the environment. We're going to use surveillance and long-range night vision cameras, and we're going to piece together one kick-ass video at the end of this thing that's going to be a highlight reel of what this person did, how they did it, what happened. And that's definitely part of it. This is, and I was going to say the Rolls Royce, but I'll make it. This is the Aston Martin of all travel experiences. And I think you just hit something that I know. I went out with a bunch of colleagues the other day. We were talking about the great restaurants. We're here in New York City, and it's very difficult to be successful. The ones that survive are the ones that make the experience match up to what the food is. It's either unbelievable food, but it has to be now paired with a great experience. And I think, to your point, travel at a certain level, if you are going to do the trip and you're going to do it right, let's flip the tables and not take what's given to us. Let's take what we want, and that's what you've created. Experience is everything. There is nothing except experience. So give me some. We're going to do a brief bit of the information here. Tell us where everyone can find your traditional travel company and the websites, the social links. Sure. And then in addition, we'll add the James Bond experience as well. So we have everything at Lugos Travel, Lugos Travel. So Lugos, a lot of people really confuse that. They think that's my last name. It's not. Lugos was the ancient god of all arts and the protector of all travelers in ancient Gaul before Julius Caesar conquered them and renamed that god to Mercury. I have always had this deep affinity for mythology, and I thought it was really a nod to my French roots to be able to have a French god. And I really like the idea of safety because that's a number one priority for all of our clients, no matter where they go and no matter what they do. Okay, I will be the first to kibosh any plan if it's not safe. And so Lugos Travel, we're on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, you name it, although we're probably most active on Facebook and Instagram. And you can also reach us at lugostravel.com, Lugos. Our phone number is 646-930-4496. Once again, that's I'll put it in the show notes, but it'll be good that you're doing it. I like it. I don't think people are timing as they're listening. I'm used to radio, you know. You got to repeat things. But we will put it on the show notes so that everybody will have it, and we do appreciate it. That's good. And so we are actually going to house the James Bond tour under Lugos Travel so that you'll be able to access all of our tours there. If you're desperate to see it, we'll also have a splash website called experience007.com.
That's pretty cool. Every time you say it, I kind of smile. It just makes me want to say
It
it.
is the coolest thing I've ever worked on.
And the music just keeps like pumping through my brain. You know? we'll be feeding that in, production team, into this part of the episode. So that was a note right there.
Can't wait to hear it.
Okay, so let's do this. I'm going to ask the standard question here, which is, what is your all-time favorite movie?
Gosh, I knew you were going to answer that question, and I've been thinking about it for weeks. And I think just like travel, I have favorite movies for different things. But in the spirit of this answer, I'm going to go with Stripes.
I'm just laughing because I was waiting for it to go down a certain path.
No, there's not a single time that movie hasn't come on that I just don't die laughing. I just love it. Bill Murray, Harold Ramis.
John Candy.
Right, John Candy, Dan Larroquette.
Yep, it's true.
I mean, just great cast, stupid story, but stupid fun. And it's, I don't know. Like I said, I'm smiling right now. You can't see it, but it's a lot of fun. It's really old. My wife hated that I made her watch it, but I don't care. It's great.
Okay, so to make the part B of this, because I thought it was going in a different direction, what is your all-time favorite James Bond movie?
You Only Live Twice.
Okay, and why that one?
I think the toys. No, actually, Thunderball is really good too. I don't know. I love the jetpack in Thunderball. I love the car in James.
It's tough.
All of it. Yeah. I really like the Daniel Craig James Bond.
Well, that was my next question.
Sean Connery James Bond.
I think they all have their own.
They brought a little something to it.
I kind of like Daniel Craig and Sean Connery is my own.
Those are my
two
favorites.
cents. Yeah, I think nothing against Roger Moore or Pierce.
But I was
Brosnan,
talking about it earlier today, and I was like, I didn't hate Pierce Brosnan. A lot of people didn't like it, but I thought it was very smooth. It wasn't as action, but it was more the smooth. And that's kind of like that. It's like, I think that's the appeal of Bond. It's like that smooth action.
Yep.
It's like that combination. Honestly, I'm gonna go on record and say I would have probably loved to see Idris Elba be a James Bond.
Wow. I think we're heading that way. I could see that. I totally can see that happening.
I thought it would have been cool. I thought he had the right makeup of an actor and the
still time to do it.
Yeah. Well, no.
This has been awesome, and we'll provide all the notes here. We'll also provide a special link on the episode notes so we can get a little more information about the James Bond experience. So those that are interested in signing up, we're going to set that up with a special page here on Thrive Loud. Shane Mahoney, this has been a true unbelievable pleasure and a really great story. Thank you for coming on today.
Lou, I can't thank you enough. Thank you so much.
And to all our Thrive Loud listeners out there, thank you for joining us. And until next time, keep thriving onward and upward. And remember, be brief, be bright, be gone.
You've been listening to Thrive Loud with your host, Lou Diamond. Make sure to subscribe on iTunes, Overcast, or wherever you get your podcasts. And follow us on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at Thrive Loud. Or find us on the web at thriveloud.com.